Okay, we're calling back to order Mundelein School District, Elementary School District 75, Tuesday, July 26th. Secretary, please call the roll.
9:36.
Here.
Rose, absent. Carl, here. Pinsky,
Here.
Gallegos,
Here.
Finger here, Lewis here.
Here.
Upon recommendation of the superintendent, I move that we approve the June 21st, 2022 executive session minutes as presented.
Second,
Secretary, please call the roll.
Molly,
Aye.
Finger aye, Gallegos,
Aye.
Pinsky,
Aye.
Lewis here.
Aye.
Carl, aye. And Rose is absent.
Okay, President's Prerogative. Does anyone have anything they would like for a future agenda item? Put on the agenda.
We started reading them in the
Oh,
first
right.
one, skipped last month, because it was just long.
Yeah. Yeah, we can pick it back up. And then are we on to section 4?
Yes, and section 4, we skipped last month because Freddie wasn't there, and that was mostly the finance pieces that, and we already had enough going on tonight, so I think we will pick up with that the next month.
And I think we're almost done with, are we gonna do anything one day, or is it gonna be strictly with that gentleman?
Yeah, so is that,
But are we still doing, you know, still has, she has time to get done, are we still doing it? Finance policy, we're almost done. Sure.
I believe so.
Okay.
So she's been in Minnesota.
We're on number 2 of Put It On. Is that where we're at?
Yeah. So I mean, I guess the next meeting we'll just go over whatever I have, I think we should be close to that anyway.
I think as far as the policy section, I want to say it was like section 4, which were all the financial
All
stuff that
finance.
you guys were going through anyway,
Right.
and a little bit of 5, which whatever, I can move it up.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do 4. Okay.
I was just gonna ask a question.
Yes.
If, I know that, a bunch of the administrators all got together with a lot of the, groups to kind of work out a annual calendar for this next school year as far as like when Rock Fest is and when all of the PTO events and all that. Is that something that we can have a copy of at some point, just so that, you guys do a great job of letting us know, hey, you know, this is what we're doing, you guys are invited to come, but it would be helpful when we're sitting down and basically putting everything in our calendar for the year. To kind of have some of those big events so that we can make sure not to schedule stuff if we want to make sure we're at Rockets or whatever.
Yeah, I agree, there's no, we know that next better.
It's one of our community goals is your listing, so yes.
And then I guess I can throw out another request. This may not be for this year, but maybe for future years, just to put them, is it possible, and I've seen parents ask this of the individual schools as well. The high school does a really good job of making sure that you can put it into the Google Calendar and just download it so that you can make it part of your calendar. If we can do something like that in our district, so that like we have a calendar, but right now, I have to sit down with multiple calendars and type it all into my calendar and make sure it gets there. But then later on down the road, when inevitably we adopt like the 4th iteration of our calendar, oh wait, we moved this day off and I didn't put it in there. If at some point we could, not this year perhaps, but maybe in the future, make that a Google Calendar so that people can download it. That way, when it gets changed, everybody sees it.
It's on that.
Because the high school does that with a lot of like the theater, the band, the whatever, and you just subscribe to the calendar and then you don't have to do it ever again. Which I think is a good goal that to align with the districts, we should all be doing.
It's like you can do that if you're using Microsoft Outlook. There's an export Outlook option.
For the whole calendar.
Yeah.
But we've also had the issue before, and I don't know if that's the case because I know that the website is still in progress. Part of the issue is, especially since we have different school, there are event calendars, and then there's the district calendar, which are not the same. So one school might have put some of those events, like Rock Fest and whatever, on their school event calendar, but not the days off of school and the early release days and the whatever. If we could have a district-wide one, then parents would know they can subscribe to it and then not miss, because again, not all, even though we sent it out when we change a calendar date, parents inevitably are surprised when, oh, I didn't realize next week was an early release date. Well, because on the first calendar, we it wasn't, and then it is.
So Chris, what are you saying, they condense the 4 building calendars and just make a single district calendar to where Thursday, it might show all of the parent-teacher conference days at the 3 schools plus Rock Fest is happening.
Because we have a lot of families who have kids at multiple schools, and if you're following one, and principals should absolutely be allowed to run their school the way they want to, but sometimes parents get used to how one principal's doing it, and then they complain if another principal's not doing it, but maybe that principal doesn't know to do it, or whatever, and we're not dictating what principals do, and that's not the point of this discussion. I'm just using that as an example to say, if we had our district calendar as a Google calendar, which would be possible at some point, considering what we all, or whatever, it may not be Google, because I'm Google illiterate, and I've learned to do it, but I'm getting there. But whatever, if we had it on a master calendar that way, if we did change an early release day or a day off, because we have made great strides and efforts at making sure we're not scheduling conferences overlapping with another school. So we're already doing the work to make it kind of aligned and on one page. It would probably be helpful if we could turn that into a calendar that parents could subscribe to and download and not be surprised, which then increases the engagement of our community and then keeps the complaints to a minimum if we know this is the wrong direction. So just an idea.
Yeah, we'll look at it. I do know that the calendar was at one point that way. And one of the issues that had come up, and this was prior to me, was who's doing the inputting in there.
Right.
And what ended up happening was accidentally some other building's event would be deleted. And another one would be added, and that created some angst. So that's why it just gets separated out. So I'm just processing through, we need to, what's that warehouse? To make sure we can secure each building's uniqueness all in one thing, and people continue to access it. Yeah.
Because, you know, I would think maybe the individual calendars can be dealt with, like spirit days and whatever, that don't necessarily apply to everybody. But as far as the things that do apply to everybody, like the conferences, the days off, the bigger things, especially the things that might change, that unless people are watching a meeting, or even though we send out the 4th iteration of a calendar, they don't realize it's different from the first one. They just thought we were sending out a new one. Not everybody agrees to that level, which is fine. But in essence, it's also just helpful in thinking about it in terms of, hey, I need to put all the stuff in for my calendar this year. Hey, it'd be really nice. And I know I've seen other parents say that, so I'm just throwing it out there, understanding it may not be possible for this year, got it, but it might be something to explore, especially now that we do have more aligned, we have a person that maybe could be the calendar person, and things like that, that might be, we might have the peak tools in place that we didn't have before.
Right. I'm just saying, actually, I feel like in the days of now electronic data, I think a district calendar with district events on it would be great, and then individual school calendars. So you could subscribe to what you want to subscribe to. That, for me, that would be the best, because you could add and subtract as your kids go through district. Just, I think it would be helpful just to have it with all district events, because then if you need to know, is this a half day, you go right to the calendar, or you look at that one. That's just fine.
No, that makes sense. And that way, that could still give the principals and buildings the ability to put anything they want to on their calendar, but that only applies to the students at their school, so that you're not inundating everybody with everything.
Right.
Which hits both points. But when, especially with the format of the websites being different than what people have been used to, and as they're getting used to it, there's still confusion about a lot of things and whatever. And I get that that's still being tweaked, and that'll get fixed.
Oh,
But while they do that, maybe that's something to look into, so that we don't have that, because I know that has been, especially for when you've got people that are new to the district and they assume the calendar, it's on the calendar, well, what happened, it didn't say early days and days off and whatever, they just don't know.
Does that make sense?
Okay, last thing I have is, Laura Mellon and Tommy met from District 120 have asked for a shared services committee meeting because it's hard to believe that we have not met since before the pandemic. So, we're looking at, like just reviewing things and maybe updating and stuff. Kevin, I was gonna ask, Laura did put this in her email, but I thought T said something about that it's time to review the matrix.
So one of the requests that we did have, we've got on our academic topics, that's how we separate percentage from the shared service positions. So she's gonna reanalyze that, like it has certain indicators, so we're bringing that back at the September board meeting for you to go over.
Okay.
So we have that, that's what we're looking at.
Okay. So, yeah, when we did all the shared services stuff, one of the things we did is look at is how we're gonna pay everybody, which percentage, so we did, Matt did some crazy Excel stuff. We have this matrix. And one of the things we said when we did it was, is we're going to look at it again in 4 years. We didn't feel like it was something that we need to look at every year, but we sort of said, oh, you know, like 4 years of the high school kind of thing. That's okay. So that's what we're allowed to do. That. So just so everyone else has. So anyway, with Ray being unavailable, you expressed some interest in doing it. So the question is, are you available August 2nd, August 3rd, which is already next week?
Well, 5:30.
5:30 is what Laura said.
Yeah, both days are open.
Okay, so I would prefer Wednesday, but I can do Tuesday also.
Okay.
Tuesday's my first day back to work, so I'm gonna fall asleep. Okay, anything else for the good of the group? Thanks again, everyone, for working on the evaluations. Kevin appreciates it. Hearing nothing, I would say I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? You're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.